All right, so let's right into this whole Stargate thing.
Okay.
This President Trump, he just announced this like $500 billion investment.
Wow.
It's for a brand new company, and like the whole point is to make the US like the king of AI.
I see.
You've got like all these big names involved too, SoftBank, OpenAI, Oracle. They're going to kick things off with like what, 100 billion?
Yeah.
This is huge, right?
A lot of money, that's for sure.
But not everyone's buying it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a ton of money, but is it actually going to happen? I don't know.
Right.
Like, growing AI infrastructure sounds impressive, but what does that even mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to just like get lost in the hype.
Sure.
But I'm curious, like, what are we actually talking about here? Data centers, algorithms. I mean, are we going to have robot armies?
Well, no, not robot armies. But think about it this way. We're talking massive data centers.
Yeah.
Like, filled with the most powerful computers on the planet. And they're crunching data, like, at the speeds we can't even imagine. And then there's, like, armies of talented engineers. They're developing these cutting-edge algorithms.
Ah, so it's not just like building a better Siri.
No. It's way bigger than that.
Okay.
This is about, like, setting the foundation for, like, a whole new generation of AI.
Like it could transform industries.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Even society as a whole.
Potentially, yeah.
But why is the government like so fixated on being #1 in AI? Like, what's the big deal?
Well, because AI is, like, this key factor in global power, right?
Uh-huh.
Whoever controls the most advanced AI, they're going to have a big advantage.
Oh, I see.
And not just economically, but also when it comes to national security.
Oh, okay. So that's where the national security thing comes in.
Exactly.
I guess it's not hard to see how AI could be used for things like cybersecurity.
Right.
Or even military applications.
Uh-huh.
It's actually kind of scary when you think about it.
Yeah, it definitely raises some serious questions about, like, the implications of this technology.
Yeah.
But for now, let's just stick to, like, whether the Stargate project can even work.
Right.
Because remember, you said there's a lot of skepticism.
Yeah, and Elon Musk is leading the charge. And he's usually pretty excited about, like, big futuristic projects.
Yeah, it's true.
But he's publicly saying that these Stargate backers, they don't have the money they're promising.
Really?
He even said on X, quote, they don't actually have the money. SoftBank has well under $10 billion secured. I have that on good authority.
Wow, he's not holding back.
I know, right?
That's a pretty bold statement. Especially considering his own history. Not just with the tech world, but also surprisingly with the Trump administration.
Wait, remind me, how is Musk connected to the Trump administration?
Well, there was that whole thing where Musk was urging Trump to pardon Ross Ulbricht, the founder of Silk Road.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then there's also the fact that a staffer from SpaceX and X, both Musk companies,
Right.
that staffer actually helped get those January 6th rioters released.
Oh, wow, yeah. Okay, it's definitely like a strange mix of relationships.
Ah.
But going back to Stargate, I can't help but wonder if some of Musk's criticism is coming from his feud with OpenAI and their CEO, Sam Altman.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility.
I mean, Musk has this very public lawsuit against OpenAI,
Right.
saying that they abandoned their nonprofit mission, that they're more interested in profits now.
Yeah, it's hard not to see his comments about Stargate through the lens of that whole legal battle.
So it's like he's questioning their motives.
Yeah.
Maybe even accusing them of hypocrisy.
It's possible.
Like, how can you guys care about ethical AI while you're jumping into this massive government project?
Yeah, exactly. It adds like a whole other layer of complexity to this whole thing.
Yeah.
But before we dive into everyone's responses to Musk, I think we need to talk about the money.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, we're talking $500 billion here.
Right. That's an insane amount.
It's astronomical.
Yeah.
So how can companies even begin to contribute to something this massive?
Yeah. Okay, let's break that down a bit.
Okay.
I mean, it can't be as simple as everyone just pooling their cash, right?
Right. It's definitely not that simple.
Okay.
There are different ways companies can contribute. Like they can use cash they already have.
Right.
Or they can take on debt financing, which is basically borrowing money to pay back later. Then there's also the possibility of getting more investments down the line.
Okay, so even if a company like SoftBank doesn't have $100 billion just sitting around,
Right.
they might have ways to raise it.
Exactly. Through things like loans or future investments.
Okay.
But each of these ways comes with its own risks.
So we've got the players, we've got the ambition, and now we've got this financial puzzle.
Yeah.
But this is where it gets really interesting, right?
Uh-huh.
Because Musk isn't the only one with strong opinions about Stargate. So how are the other people involved responding to his claims?
Well, they're definitely not just ignoring him.
Okay.
For one, the White House has come out with a strong rebuttal, basically saying, trust us, the money is there.
Mm-hmm.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, she went on record.
Okay.
She emphasized the administration's commitment to the project.
So they're like really putting their faith in these big names behind Stargate.
It seems that way.
It feels like they're trying to project confidence, maybe even deflect attention away from the specifics of the funding.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But what about the companies themselves? Are they saying anything about what Musk is saying?
Oh, yeah. They are not staying quiet. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, he went on X with a pretty pointed response.
Really?
He basically said, and I'm paraphrasing here, Elon, you know this isn't true.
Oh, wow.
Implying that Musk was like intentionally spreading misinformation.
Okay.
He even invited Musk to visit the first Stargate site, which is already being built.
Oh, he's doing some shade.
A little bit, yeah.
So Altman's trying to paint a picture of progress.
Yeah.
Maybe to counter Musk's narrative of like financial instability.
Exactly. And he didn't stop there. Altman also suggested that Musk was prioritizing his own companies over the good of the country.
Wow.
It's a clever tactic.
Yes.
It takes the focus away from the money and puts it on Musk's motivations.
So it's become a PR battle.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Each side trying to control the narrative.
Exactly.
But let's get back to the money. Is there any actual evidence that Stargate has the funding?
Well, besides what the companies are saying, we just have these anonymous sources.
Right.
And that always comes with a grain of salt.
Of course.
One source told CNN that what Musk said about SoftBank's funding was just wrong. This source claims to be familiar with the inner workings of Stargate. They said that SoftBank has billions in cash and is ready to take on debt to support the project.
So they're saying that even if they don't have all the billions right now, they have the means and the willingness to raise it?
Yeah, that's basically their argument. And they made similar arguments for the other companies too.
Yeah.
Like they pointed out that MGX has big capital commitments, Oracle has billions in cash, and OpenAI just got billions more in venture capital funding.
So they're trying to show how each company could contribute to this massive funding goal.
Exactly.
But even if we believe all that, it still doesn't add up to the $500 billion, does it?
That's true.
Okay.
But remember, there's more to the picture than just initial contributions. We talked about debt financing earlier.
Right, right.
That's a common way for companies to raise large sums of money. It's like taking out a giant loan.
Okay, so could you explain how that works? Because, I mean, I know what a loan is, but we're talking about amounts that make my head spin.
Sure. Basically, a company borrows money from lenders
Yeah.
and agrees to pay it back over time, usually with interest.
Okay.
It's a way for them to get capital they don't have right now so they can invest in these big projects like Stargate.
So they're betting that Stargate will be so successful that they'll be able to pay back these loans.
That's basically it.
That sounds like a big gamble, especially with all the uncertainty around this whole thing.
It definitely comes with risks.
Okay.
And debt financing isn't the only option. They could also try to get further investments later on or even explore government subsidies.
Speaking of government subsidies, didn't Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella say something about their commitment to Stargate?
He did. He was on CNBC and confirmed that Microsoft was contributing $80 billion.
Wow, that's a lot of money. They're really putting their money where their mouth is.
But even with all these funding sources, there's still a lot of uncertainty around the project, right?
Absolutely. And that's what makes this whole thing so interesting. You have this unbelievably ambitious project with the potential to completely change the world, but it's wrapped up in all this financial ambiguity and these conflicting claims.
Yeah, and it's not just the financial stuff that's uncertain.
Right.
What about the risks that come with a project this big? We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars to develop powerful AI.
Yeah.
What if something goes wrong?
That's a great point. Like, what happens if there's a huge economic downturn?
Right.
Or what if the political landscape changes and the next administration isn't so into AI dominance?
Oh, yeah.
And what about some crazy new technology that just comes out of nowhere and makes this whole project obsolete before it even gets off the ground?
Those are all really good points.
Uh-huh.
And we can't forget about the ethical stuff either.
Of course.
People are worried about losing jobs and algorithmic bias and even like AI systems getting out of control.
It's another layer of complexity that we could talk about for hours.
Right.
But for now, let's just focus on the main question. Is Stargate worth it?
On one hand, you've got the potential for amazing AI advancements led by the smartest people in the industry,
Right.
and they've got tons of money to work with.
But on the other hand, there are those concerns about the financials, the potential for things to go wrong, and the ethical issues that nobody seems to be talking about.
It's like we're at a crossroads with two paths in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
One leads to a future where AI makes our lives better, solves problems, and brings us progress.
But the other path.
The other path is where all our fears about AI come true.
Okay.
Economic disruption, social unrest, maybe even existential threats.
So the choices we make now will decide which path we take.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a lot to think about.
It is. So where does that leave our listeners in all of this?
Yeah, where does it leave us?
Well, that's the question I want to leave you with as we wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they're saying, trust President Trump.
Right.
And trust these CEOs.
Okay, so they're basically doubling down, like they're trying to show everyone they're confident. But what about the companies? What are they saying about all of this?
Oh, they're talking Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. He went on X with a pretty strong response to Musk.
What did he say?
He was basically like, Elon, that's not true. Like saying Musk was spreading misinformation.
Wow.
Altman even invited Musk to come visit the first Stargate site.
Oh, really?
Which he said they've already started building.
It sounds like he's trying to show everyone that things are moving forward.
Right, like trying to counter that whole financial instability thing that Musk is pushing.
But he didn't just stop there.
No, he also kind of implied that Musk is putting his own companies ahead of the country.
That's a pretty smart move.
Yeah.
It takes the focus off the money and puts it on Musk and his motives.
Exactly.
So now it's like a PR battle.
Seems like it, yeah.
With each side trying to control what people think.
Uh-huh.
But let's get back to the money. Is there any actual evidence that Stargate actually has all this funding?
Well, besides what the companies are saying,
Yeah.
all we have are anonymous sources.
Okay.
And those are always tricky.
You never know what to believe.
Right. One source told CNN that what Musk said about SoftBank was wrong.
Okay.
This source claimed to be like an insider on the project. They said that SoftBank has billions of dollars in cash.
Okay.
And that they're totally willing to take on debt to support Stargate.
So their point is that even if they don't have all the money right this second,
Right.
they have ways to get it.
Exactly. And they said similar things about the other companies.
Okay.
Like MGX has big capital commitments. Oracle has billions in cash. And OpenAI just got a bunch of money from venture capital.
So they're trying to show how all these companies can actually contribute to the $500 billion goal.
Yeah. They're trying to make the case for it.
But even if all that's true, it still doesn't add up to $500 billion.
No, you're right. It doesn't.
Okay.
But don't forget about things like debt financing.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
It's a really common way for companies to get a lot of money.
Right. Like taking out a huge loan. Okay, so how does that work exactly? I mean, I know what a loan is, but these are crazy amounts of money.
Basically, the company borrows money from lenders.
Uh-huh.
And they promise to pay it back over time with interest.
Okay.
It gives them money they might not have right now so they can invest in big projects like Stargate.
So it's like they're betting on Stargate being super successful so they can pay back all those loans.
That's a good way to put it.
That's risky, right?
It definitely is. And debt financing isn't the only option.
Oh, right.
They could also look for more investments later on, or maybe even get some help from the government.
Speaking of government, didn't the CEO of Microsoft say something about their commitment to Stargate?
He did, yeah, Satya Nadella.
Yeah.
He was on CNBC and confirmed that Microsoft is putting in $80 billion.
$80 billion, that's huge. So they're definitely serious about this.
Yeah.
But there's still that uncertainty, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what makes this whole thing so interesting.
Yeah.
We've got this super ambitious project, like it could change the world. Right. But there's all this financial stuff that's not clear. And people are saying completely different things.
Yeah, and it's not just the money that's uncertain. What about the risks?
What do you mean?
I mean, all this money is going to develop powerful AI. What if something goes wrong?
That's a really important question.
Right.
Like, what happens if the economy crashes?
Yeah.
Or if a new president comes in who isn't so excited about AI?
Or what if some crazy new technology pops up that makes Stargate obsolete?
All valid concerns. And then there's the ethical implications, too.
Right, like job losses, algorithmic bias, even the possibility of AI getting out of control.
It's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, it is.
But for now, let's stick with the big question.
Okay.
Is Stargate a good idea?
Right.
Is it worth all the money and all the risk?
It's a tough call. On one hand, you have the potential for huge breakthroughs in AI,
Yeah,
with the smartest people working on it and tons of money to spend.
for sure.
But on the other hand, you've got those financial concerns and the chance that things could go very wrong.
Uh-huh.
And then the ethical questions that nobody seems to want to talk about.
It's like we're standing at a crossroads
Yeah.
with two paths ahead of us.
All right.
One path leads to a future where AI makes everything better,
Yeah.
solves problems, and brings progress.
And the other path.
The other path is where all our fears about AI become real.
Right.
Economic disaster, social unrest, maybe even something that threatens our existence.
So our choices right now will decide which path we take.
Exactly.
That's a lot to think about.
It really is. So what does all this mean for our listeners?
Where does it leave us?
Well, that's exactly the question I want you to think about as we finish up this deep dive. It feels like we just scratched the surface with this whole Stargate thing.
Yeah. There's so much to think about. The tech, the money, the politics, and like the potential benefits, but also the risks, you know?
Right, and that's why we need to have these conversations.
Yeah.
To really dig into the complexity of a project like this.
For sure.
We can't just blindly accept promises of progress without thinking about what could go wrong.
I'm glad we had the chance to talk about all this stuff.
Yeah, me too.
We started by looking at the goals of Stargate.
Uh-huh.
Then we got into Musk's claims about the funding and what the White House and OpenAI had to say about it.
Right.
We even looked at different ways these companies could contribute financially, from like cash they already have to debt financing and even future investments.
Right. When I talked about the risks, too, not just with the money, but with what could happen if we develop AI this powerful.
What really struck me is just how big this whole thing is.
Yeah.
And how it could like completely change the world.
It's true.
It's like we're at this major turning point in history,
Uh-huh.
and we don't even know where it's going to take us.
It's a pretty humbling thought when you think about it.
Right.
Just a few decades ago, AI was mostly just in science fiction.
Yeah.
Now it's real, and it's changing our lives, whether we realize it or not.
And with Stargate, we're talking about taking all of that to a whole new level.
Yeah, it's like getting on a rocket ship and heading into the unknown.
With Stargate, it's a mix of excitement and fear. They want to see what amazing things can happen,
Right.
but we also know there are dangers out there.
So as we wrap things up here, what's the main thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
What should they be thinking about in this world of AI that seems to be getting more complex every day?
I think the most important thing is to stay informed.
Yeah.
Be critical of what you hear and read,
Okay.
and ask questions.
Right.
Don't just believe the headlines.
Uh-huh.
Do your own research, consider different viewpoints, and think about what all these changes could mean in the long run.
Because no matter what happens with Stargate, AI is here to stay.
It is.
And what we do now will determine what happens with AI for future generations.
Exactly.
This isn't just about one project or a few powerful companies.
No,
This is about the future of humanity.
it really is.
And we all need to be a part of shaping that future.
So stay curious, stay engaged, and keep asking the tough questions.
Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
See you next time.
Bye.